Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. Guess who I am? I am Kisma. And today we're going to jam on all things about the creative and destructive power of your mind. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hey there, Nick. What's going on?
Well, hello, Kisma. What's going on? Well, let's talk about this coffee for a second.
We have coffee in front of us, so we're going to talk fast, furious, and be fun, everyone.
And you know what I've heard? I don't really know, because I'm from the Midwest. Apparently, I have still
No, you're not from this planet.
Midwest accent, but apparently we talk fast. I never really noticed that I talk fast.
I don't know. Did this come up recently?
Might be talking a little bit faster. I heard it somewhere.
You read it on Facebook, right? So it must be true.
It must be true. No, I didn't see it there. It was people from California, especially when I first moved out here. They're like, "Oh, you're not from here."
Yeah, because they're doing surfer lingo, dude.
I guess I'm not that chill.
Slowing it down.
But anyway, the Phil's coffee is amazing.
Shout out to Phil's coffee.
Yeah, well, let's put that in the category of things that we love.
Things that we love.
Phil's, they do, what's their thing? 1 cup at a time. So they do one.
Yeah, it is not a foo-foo kind of coffee shop where you go in and get a latte or a flat white or like a double, triple espresso, hazelnut shot of something. But you get a really good cup of coffee with really good cream.
It is. It's just a rip-roaring cup of coffee, man. Like, I just love it. And, I've always had...
Wait, say that again.
Rip-roaring cup of coffee.
That's cool.
I've had this thing with coffee for so long where... I'll be having it and then I get a little addicted to the caffeine and then I'll decide to not have it. And I have been
you spilled some on your shirt.
On it and off of it. It's a podcast. We don't have to talk about that. I've been on it and off it like so many different times. And Phil's is worth coming back to it. But I do have to keep it in check.
Yeah, like anything. I mean, we've talked about this on different episodes, the neutralization, right? Too much of a good thing is not good anymore.
True. Yeah, true story.
We're doing Saturday Podcast Mania. We took a little drive down the 101 and got some coffee and came back. You set it all up here in our little Illumination Academy office.
We're ready to rock.
Yeah. So
what's going on with you, by the way?
Whoa. It's been a week of massive content creation. I'll, just put a little plug for revisiting the Mantra Snacks. If you've not registered for Mantra Snacks, you just grab it in the show notes. It's my free audio course, and they're like short little wisdom soul snacks.
What is the coffee one?
Oh, I don't know that we did coffee.
You didn't do? Oh, you did chocolate.
We did chocolate, yeah.
How did you not do coffee?
I know. I might have to record number 10. Maybe that's what I was waiting for. Like, what is number 10? So really grab it because it's like bite-sized chunks of wisdom, just true teachings. I hope everyone knows by now we don't give the noise. We really go in for the truth.
Yeah, we do.
So lots there, a lot with my mindset to get your prosperity course, people, loving my students there, one-on-one clients, we had a great episode last week with Sue B. Zimmerman.
That was super cool.
So coming off of that, and if you've not listened to it, please go back. So really good things.
Yeah. I'm excited. My back is feeling better.
Your back's feeling better. Thanks to Dr. Ann, who will be on the show soon.
Would love to. It'd be so much fun to have her on. Yeah. What a weird thing though. It's just like, it got like super tight. And I think that's like, we always want the magical solution, and I talk this when we teach energy mastery and we talk about these kinds of things. It's like, this is not a Jesus healing. Sometimes things take a little bit of time to unwind and like really being patient with that. And what I kind of noticed through my own process was like, and now it's starting to feel a little bit better, is like, wow, like it's really easy to get accustomed to pain and discomfort and just like, that's just normal. you know?
Yeah, it's not normal.
It's not though, like it's really not. But as you start to come out of it, you're like, holy cow, like I was really, there was really quite a lot going on down there. And the other thing is like, wow, it's so easy to quit on your healing process.
Oh, can't do that.
Have you ever noticed that? Like where you get someone that's like, you want it gone, and all you just want to do is push it away. But it's like, it's really about staying in the solution around it.
Have to stay in the solution. Absolutely.
Yeah. So giving it a little time to unwind around that. And wow, it's really nice to be.
Good.
Yeah. Get back on my surfboard.
All right. Ooh. So today we're talking about the mind. You know, guys, we talk about the mind a lot. And can you figure out why?
I know why.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's been said in 1,000 different ways by all the great teachers, you know, as you think, so you become.
Your thoughts are things.
This is just something that's so incredibly fundamental to the entire process of growth and development and healing and transformation and really just all those esoteric things aside of just being happy and having a happier life. Like this is
more objective.
It is so fundamental, but I think it gets really, really misunderstood and twisted up in some pretty interesting ways.
I agree. When things are forced or pushed in or, there's so many ways it can be destructive. And that's part of what we were talking about. Like the destructive force of the mind can be where in a matter of seconds, one allows their thoughts to take them spiraling downward.
Totally.
In just seconds. I mean, all you have to do is like watch a Shakespeare play and you see a great representation of that. But whenever that happens, it's usually attached to a mode of selfishness, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Like there's something I want. There's somebody I want. There's something I want it to be a certain way. And when it isn't, when that is disrupted, then one goes into anger. And anger is an emotion. I'm not saying don't be angry if something happens, but when the thoughts obsess on the anger, it's like spiral downward really fast.
Yeah. Now, do you think it's always selfish? Now, I'm curious about this. I hadn't really thought about it in this way, but what I'm saying is like when you just get so off into somebody else's story or somebody else's thing too, like through distraction, like we talked about in the multitasking episode and distractification. Is that also have a selfish quality, or is that a different kind of a conversation?
Well, I think both. I mean, part of it is a distraction, right? Your distractification. You get swept up in someone else's energy and drama and trauma, and then one doesn't have to deal with their own stuff. That in and of itself is selfish. Is like, I don't want to deal with my stuff. I don't want to get present. I don't want to focus. I just want to feel something else. That's a selfishness.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's not about being focused and relentless and present on your path and purpose, even at the times where it is uncomfortable. So I guess I'll pivot that and say when someone is willing to be uncomfortable and see their way through that uncomfortability, then their thoughts actually can escalate to higher ways. Because number one, you go through a sense of fulfillment, achievement, like, whoa, I got through that. Number two, you're calling in your forces, right? Like you have guides, mentors, angels, higher self, or if it's just you and your physical team, like you're calling in forces. You're there, you're present. You're like, I got this. There's a sense of I'm moving forward. So it's more apt, I think, to hold one to the present moment.
Well, let's back up for a second and talk about the creative force of thoughts. So if you could maybe just talk a little bit around that, like what, your thoughts, thoughts are things, thoughts are like, what do you see that for people to, just to really recognize like, wow, this is really important.
What we've talked about this before, but one's mind is an energy force. There's energy before thoughts. There's energy in you. There's a frequency around you, and your mind is an energy force. So think about it, everyone. At any given point in time, your mind, your amazing imagination can take you anywhere, even if you've never been there before. You can do anything. You can go anywhere. You can have a conversation with Brad Pitt. You can have a conversation with Michelle Obama. You can go visit somebody that you miss in another state or country. You can go anywhere. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And the issue, though, is that kind of creativity is taking people anywhere but now.
Right. I was going to say, and that's
as much
amazing.
fun as that is.
Yeah. I think the thing that most people miss is that there is a consequence, and there's a true energetic consequence that you actually can measure, that each thought or each word has to your energetic container, to your being.
This is true.
Okay. And so a lot of times people will think like, oh, I'm just thinking that, like I'm not, like that's my inside voice. I'm not letting it out.
I'm just thinking it.
Like,
I'm not talking. I'm not doing it. In actuality, you are.
You are on a certain level. And that's not to say like, good for you. Like if you're really thinking something untoward, then good for you for not saying that.
For not speaking out loud and catching yourself. Yes,
Way to
well
go.
done, folks.
Yeah, well done. However, it's not without its own consequences.
Talk a little bit about that. So let's just pause and say, yes, it's better to not speak out horrible things or to go and rob that bank if you passed it and you thought, like, what would it be like to rob a bank? But when there is thought, there's intention and there's energy.
Right.
So what does that mean for, say, the karmic consequences or just one's own field, like you said, happiness or lack of happiness?
Well, I really think about it like, okay, happiness aside is just access to energy. I hear of a lot of people who are really, really depleted. They feel like I'm just depleted of energy or I don't have enough. And they feel like they're going in a lot of different directions and nothing's really getting done and they're just tired, right? Or they live their whole day on an adrenaline rush, just really pushing through it. And so when I think about that, I think more in terms of access and flow.
Access and flow.
So what happens is when you have constrictive thoughts, say like anger is one of them, or frustration is along those lines, or lack.
Right.
Or judgment. Oh, that's so stupid, And what people don't realize is that just the word, even if you're not really fully buying into that, just saying the words has an energetic consequence. Your container will shrink.
Yeah. And just say those words. Like I'm jealous or I hate someone. Like you feel it, right? It's like,
yeah. Well, as an experiment, they can just say, oh, this is so stupid.
Ugh.
Right. Just this is so stupid. And then, just notice how you feel.
Right. Your throat, your heart, just your body, your thoughts. And then where do your thoughts go after this is so stupid?
Exactly. Gets hooked in. And then to shift that back, just think to yourself, I am super, super receptive. I am so receptive.
Yeah. This is cool. I'm so receptive.
And that'll help it to bounce back, because what that does, then you think about that is then you have, when your field shrinks, you have less access. You have less available to you to use in a really productive way.
And creative way.
Exactly. So this is why you see people who are, really negative, and they're constantly in that state of like force or lack or just feeling tired or
frustrated,
sick.
Right?
Yeah.
So frustrated. I mean, I think this is true. Like negative people end up being really frustrated. And then you're around them. You're like, ugh, I don't want to be around this.
And it just continues to spiral.
Yeah.
So that would be probably to me like the biggest number one takeaway is that even if it's just happening in your head, it matters.
Yes, it does matter. That's a great way to put it. It matters.
It totally matters.
It's doing something. So again, when we talk about thoughts, like your thoughts when I was teaching about this in Mindset to Get Your Prosperity Set, your thoughts, as they cluster together, they become like this little energetic entity that's like a magnet. And this little cluster, big cluster, dependent how much, especially emotional charge is in it, the cluster can become very big, very thick, very powerful, and turn into what we call discordant thought flow. So when those clusters of thoughts go out into the universal plane of existence, just out into the universe, right? I know, I'm going to get a little woo. But they're like a magnet, and they're going to do what? yes, they're going to attract other like thoughts. So if you think about this, whatever this universe is, that's completely infinite, we really can't grasp it. But there are sections where when you're thinking a certain way, you are going to end up around other people, places, times, and events of that same frequency. And that can happen, my friends, simply by your thoughts.
So for anybody out there who you feel like you're surrounded with people who are frustrating to you.
What you thinking about? It could be that you simply need what I call a pattern interrupt. That, all right, maybe you work with them, maybe you live with some people, maybe there's just people who have created frustration or negativity in their life, and you're in this circle. And so what happens is you're around them, and then you end up thinking, oh man, Bob's so frustrating. Oh man, Betty's so negative. No offense, Bob's and Betty's out there, but it's just like that. So then it becomes this loops or this vortex into the negative quicksand. And what you really have to do is extract yourself, like get out of the conversation and change your thoughts, which it could be simply, oh, perhaps Bob's having a rough time. Maybe Betty's having a hard time. Wonder what's going on. And we're going to add a freebie in this episode. It's going to be the Paradise Pivot. So please check the show notes because you can download the Paradise Pivot. It's like a little process where you actually change your thoughts. And this, when you're able to do that, then all of a sudden your internal energy changes and the conversation is no longer as entangling. And chances are you'll be able to just extract yourself from the whole thing very quickly.
Right. That's, I can't wait to see that.
Paradise Pivot.
Yeah, that's cool. You brought up something really important. I kind of want to just circle back around to it to really get to a different layer of that, where what I hear you describing is basically when somebody's getting stuck and focused on the problem.
Yeah, not the solution.
Right. So they're looking at and seeing all these negative things or negative qualities or negative behaviors, negative situations, and not really thinking about how can I shift that or what can I do that will just shift that just a little bit. And it kind of gets back to what I was saying before with the healing in my back is we all want that magical solution and you just wave your hands and
it does happen.
It can happen. But it's more what I see way, way more often is one tiny little shift that really helps everything to move right along. And then before you know it, you're in a very different place. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be this big titanic thing. Like you talked about a pattern interrupt. Well, that's sometimes needed, to really change something.
Right.
But more often if you just start with you and rather than being like, oh, Bob, not again. And rather than getting stuck in that, just being like,
interesting.
Yeah, I wonder. What
is it that I could say or think or do that would shift that?
Well, number one is a little bit of compassion and opening your heart.
Compassion goes a long way.
Yeah, because people are struggling.
Yeah. There's a lot of struggle on the planet right now.
They really are. And it's amazing to me. I'm talking to people every day.
Yeah.
About what's really going on in their lives, all the things that they don't tell anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty extraordinary what the average human being deals with, and they just think that's normal.
Yeah, right. And it isn't normal.
It's not.
It's not how we're created.
So it's the difference between Bob, not again, and man, I wonder what's really going on there.
Yeah. And not taking other people's stuff on. We are not designed and created to be disturbed. We are not created to be disturbed.
You're saying that we are designed differently?
We are not designed to be disturbed humans. But we take this on through that whole conditioned personality. And we take it on through selfishness, through attachment, through getting swept up in other people's negativity and trauma through creating our own drama and trauma. But we are not designed to be disturbed. We're divine design.
Right. And that's a part where I think it's important to kind of come back into that absolute of this is not it, everybody.
Yeah, this isn't it.
There's a level of quietude and peace and bliss that is actually the human design.
Yeah.
That is way more true to our nature, right?
Exactly.
That is the true nature.
Exactly.
And every step towards that, you're going to have less agitation, less frustration, and more happiness.
And yes. And I think one of the fastest ways to at least begin to contemplate that and understand that is it's the taking your thoughts higher, right? Nick, we were talking about this before the episode, is one could be doing the most mundane action. I don't know, cleaning the floor, wiping up the kitchen, mowing the lawn. And if your thoughts are in that action, everything is pretty mundane. It's not bad. Like we have obligations, keep our home clean, whatever, lawn tended to. But even when you're doing something mundane, when you choose to elevate your thoughts to something higher, you elevate the total experience and therefore your frequency and your vibe. Now, what do I mean by this? It's simple like that. Like, all right, say you're mowing the lawn, pushing the lawnmower, it's going. All right, I got like another 45 minutes to go. It could be one way. But if the thoughts begin to look like, who's allowing me? Like, who's created this in me where I can actually push this lawnmower? Like, who created the minds and the brains to even design this lawnmower that flows along easily? Who's behind, that cut I got on my foot and now it's healing? Like, what's behind that? When you truly stop and start to contemplate everything, it's mind-blowing. It really is.
Yeah, that's a great way to jar out of the mundane.
Yeah, you can get a little stoned on it too, so just be careful, guys. But really, it's like you take it down like, okay, I'm looking at this desk. We're podcasting. I'm looking out the window to this other office, and there's a desk. Okay, who put that together? Who was behind the design? What allowed that human to even contemplate it? You just start asking, you realize there's this great energy force, God, Brahman, source, spirit, whatever. But you're an individuation of that, as are your thoughts an individuation of that. But it's up to you to guide them higher.
And to stay out of the small me and the victimization of it. I got to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
How does that even feel? You're
Yeah.
just like, oh man, I got to do this and I got to do that. It's like, wow, you're being totally
heavy.
victimized by your life.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty important part about this, where it's recognizing that you're the creator of your reality and really taking 100% ownership over that. Mm-hmm. And I can only say for myself that was probably one of the most pivotal moments in my life when I really recognized that, for one, and then for two is really looking at all the areas in my life where I maybe wasn't taking responsibility for my thoughts, not taking responsibility. It's like, oh, well, my brain is just acting. Like, yes, it can do that, or you can direct it. Or my words of like, oop, didn't mean for that one to get out.
Right.
And my actions or inactions.
Yeah.
Right.
Inactions is a choice too. Inaction is an action.
Inaction is an action.
Yeah.
And so being really 100% responsible for that just puts just a very, very different tone on that. And that's when we talk about the creative power of thought, that's really taking 100% responsibility for that. Exactly. So one of the things that I've seen anyway is that people get super victimized by their own thoughts. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah.
And it almost seems like they're just like, I don't know how to turn this off.
Well, it does become a force to be reckoned with. I mean, and that is, the power of selfishness. That's the power of attachment. It's the power of negativity. Many people don't know how to turn it off, or they're being fed by, a lot of victim energy. So they'd rather stay in, this is happening to me, rather than freaking no, like I'm going to shift this. I don't care what it takes. I'm shifting out of this. And that's a choice, right? It's a choice. And one thing, you all see in the Paradise Pivot, like you can start by simply asking, is this the way I really want to feel now? Because when you ask yourself that question, if you're like, I feel like crap, is this how I really want to feel? You might get a yes. Okay. Go at it. But likely you're going to get, no, I don't want to feel this way. And the moment you're having a feeling that is less than desirable, look at your thought flow.
Right. Now, this is to play devil's advocate around this, because one of the things that this can lead to is then, well, I'm not supposed to feel that way, and then stuffing it.
Oh, what's that mean? Give me an example here.
What I mean is like, I'm just like, I'm feeling frustrated. Say I'm feeling frustrated about, projects not going the way, or somebody's not doing something that I want them to do.
And then you shame yourself or do something weird.
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting things about when people get into this kind of concept, where then it becomes like, oh, well, law of attraction type of thinking, where I'm not even going to think that because I'll be creating it. Well, like, where does your mind have that opportunity to express itself?
Right.
And then to be redirected. You know what I mean?
To pivot, to shift it, to transmute it.
And it's kind of like a little kid where, if you're a little kid, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like if your little kid's having a little outburst, you can just get in line, kind of thing. And then the kid doesn't really have an opportunity to express.
Yeah.
And then that represses and then it blows up later.
Yeah.
Or, just kind of letting it have its moment and then redirecting to the higher in a much more elegant way. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm just like
You're going off on the parenting. I think we have to do that for another podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's not about repressing emotions. Like, one has to really acknowledge how they're feeling. But I'm a believer that if we have this ability to hold ourselves to the present moment, we have the ability to guide our thoughts, and therefore we have the ability to guide our emotions. It's really as simple as that to me. It's like you discern what's coming in, what are you taking in, what are you sending out? And if you're angry, you've got to look at it. You've got to resolve it. We have all these energetic processes we use for ourselves and our clients and our students. And anyone's welcome, send us an email if you're interested more, info@sourcemovement.com. But by the same token, I think by observing and by acknowledging and by questioning and being willing to pivot, one can exit out of a low vibe thought pretty rapidly.
Pretty quickly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a matter of choice. I think another place where people get really wrapped up in their own thoughts is they're trying to figure out like, well, where did that come from? And where did that come from? And then they go back into the rabbit hole and all the way back into all this old stuff, and all these, and it was my childhood and all this stuff. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I fully recognize and have worked with many people who have had very horrible things happen in their childhood. And I'm not saying that doesn't have an effect. What I am saying is that, man, like, you can keep going back there and stirring that stuff up endlessly, or you can actually make a choice to shift that right now.
Yeah, to be in the present and to choose who you are right now.
Yeah, and I just so don't dig doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, I think that's true too. From the energetic processes, one doesn't always need to know what it is that's being transformed or cleared. And yes, therapy can be a great tool at looking, acknowledging, and understanding what's happened. But this is it. Like, this time right now is the moment that we all have to be like, I'm the human right here. And this is where I desire to go. This is where I desire to take my thoughts. The past is an immense opportunity for learning. And when we then realize this present moment is an immense opportunity for creating, it becomes very exciting.
Yeah. And I think it somehow has gotten lodged in the collective consciousness that it's harder to create what you want than it is to create what you like, just to have things happen.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, well, if I'm going to create what that's harder. Well, you're creating all the time. And if you have a bunch of stuff in your own life that you don't like right now, well, how much effort did you put in to create those?
Yeah.
Then it doesn't take any more effort to create something that you want.
Exactly. And sometimes it's that, we've talked about this before, but it's really the ultimate question. I mean, our great teachers in spirituality have all led us to this question, and that is, what am I doing to create this right now? Or what have I done to create this? This isn't about. I
hate that question.
It's a tough
sometimes.
question, guys, and it's not about beating yourself up. It is certainly not about shame. It's not about guilt. It's about, what is my role? And when someone has the courage, and when someone is brave enough to inquire at that level, your reward is just stellar and huge and very rapid? Because that is not an easy question to ask, but it's a very high spiritual question. And when you're able to do that objectively, then you get some amazing answers and really golden nuggets coming just right back into your soul. And the pivot is that much faster.
Yeah. Courage.
Courage, man.
It
great
really
hearts.
does.
Great hearts have courage.
It does take courage to do that because you don't always know what you're going to find with that and where that's going to lead.
Right.
And sometimes when we find ourselves in a place where, just everything is not going the way that we want and we're feeling frustrated in a lot of different areas, when you start to really inquire around that and start to unwind that pattern that created that, you recognize along the ways, hindsight's 20/20, but you recognize along the way of like, ooh, I made that choice. I made that choice. I made that choice.
Exactly.
And ooh, that's one that just slipped by me.
Right. Exactly.
That was something I wasn't paying attention to. So that's really like, it's kind of a destructive process.
Right.
So it's a creative destruction of like, oh, I do need to actually, I don't know that destroys the right word, but to unwind some of those old patterns so that I can create something new or different.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I think is important also is that oftentimes creating something different becomes about just adding in a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, that's noisy.
All this, I'm going to learn everything about this. I'm exploring everything. I'm just scouring the internet to learn everything I can about X.
Right.
And while I truly appreciate the dedication, that's not helping.
Exactly.
Mostly it's about cleaning up
right.
a lot of the other stuff that's just not serving or making it harder. Because then you go start adding a whole bunch of other things on, and it just right. creates more chaos in your head and more, just confusion.
Right.
It creates a lot of confusion.
Exactly.
And not everything out there is really all that. Just don't believe everything you read on the internet, folks.
Yeah, inquire, right? That's one of the skills that we've always gone back to in the Vedanta teaching is always inquire. Is this true? Is this so? I love that. I wanted to share a quote you and I were talking about earlier by Emerson, that Ralph Waldo Emerson love about great hearts, right? It's so awesome. He said, great hearts steadily send forth the secret forces that incessantly draw great events. Oh, man.
That's
the secret forces. It's within you, people.
A true philosopher.
It is so true. Send forth the secret forces that incessantly, not little bits, but incessantly draw great events. There's the power, people.
But what he's really talking about there is a real alignment of the head and the heart.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're sending forth a thought, like a thought is the head, but the heart, and having those two having the same conversation, that becomes pretty important.
It's like the head and the energy, the head and the heart being aligned, solved, resolved, inflow, all those things. So possible.
And that's, that's a little bit more of a in-depth conversation, I think, around that. But at the end of the day, like when you talk about true alignment, there's more to it than your head and your heart, for sure. But those two are really important for manifesting in the world. And I think that's the place where most people get caught up.
Yes.
And
I
so
agree.
Then their head's saying one thing, their heart's saying another thing. They're ignoring one or the other based on, what other people have told them or what they think they're supposed to be doing or whatever, for whatever reason, self-doubt. And then they wind up in that middle ground and sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
And that's just death, man.
Yeah.
You're just
so tricky.
Decay.
Don't decay. Rise, evolve, create, be happy, and be willing to be uncomfortable in your journey, because this life is actually an amazing opportunity we've been given.
It is. Yeah. And looking at those things is not always the easiest.
No.
But well
doable.
Worth it. Yeah.
And
totally
we're here.
doable.
We got your back. And if you're interested in that freebie that I've created, it's kismaawake.com/paradise.
Will you read that quote one more time?
Oh, I will before we sign off, because it's so good. Great hearts steadily send forth the secret forces that incessantly draw great events.
Thank
Emerson.
you. Yeah, it's so amazing. Well, go create something amazing, people.
Yeah. Let us know what it is. Send us an email, or in the show notes, put some little comments there so we know that our Illumination podcast is helping you in the best way possible.
Peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.